Welcome to Bridging LA. I'm Karina Ortiz.
I'm Dwayne Gill.
And Bridging LA is a podcast where we share real stories, real challenges, and real solutions from the voices of foster youth
and traditional age youth
in Los Angeles.
Together as fellows, we are part of this fellowship designed to imagine new possibilities for our community through storytelling, advocacy, and creating change.
This podcast was born out of that vision. The Radical Imagination Fellowship brings together young leaders who lived experience in foster care, housing insecurities, and the juvenile justice system. We're using our voices to push back against stereotypes, highlight our resilience, and bring back bridges all around LA.
Each episode of Bridging LA will dive into a different theme that directly impacts foster youth and TAY. We'll share our personal journeys, highlight resources, and bring in community voices so that no young person feels like they're going through it alone.
We know that challenges are real in education, housing, and the justice system, and beyond that. But we also know that we can come together, share our stories, and imagine something better. Change is possible. Again, this is Bridging LA, and let's get into it.
Welcome to Bridging LA. I'm Dwayne Gill. So for those who don't know, right now we're sitting with the executive director from the Social Justice Learning Institute. Part of his work centers around equity, healing, and opportunity for youth, which often are pushed beyond the margins. Really being a trailblazer for the community in Inglewood, which actually I was born in, at Daniel Freeman. Ladies and gentlemen, DerekSteele.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing today?
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm excited about today's conversation.
So for those who don't know, Derek, can you give a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm originally actually born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, where I went to school for electrical computer engineering. I actually got a job straight out of college at Northrop Grumman, which brought me out here to LA. And I've only lived in Inglewood since I moved here in 2008. Is the community that embraced my family and I. I've had the pleasure of working with the Social Justice Learning Institute going on 16 years now. I started off as a volunteer back in 2010, and this is before there were jobs or anything like that. It was a ragtag bunch of volunteers who had big, hairy, audacious goals on how we wanted to create change in our community, starting with working with young people, but also creating change in the built environment by way of health, in the built environment with growing food, creating access to healthy food, and here now, going on more than 15 years later, we got 62 team members, and we're impacting communities not only just in LA, but also in Antelope Valley and Houston, Texas, doing work in education, doing work in health in the built environment, health equity, as well as policy and advocacy. So.
Got you. I wanted to ask more about that. What are some of the educational programs your organization has done, and what are some of the things that they do in the past? Yeah,
well, actually, the education work is our flagship work. We have a program that is now called Urban Scholars, but it started off as the Black Male Youth Academy. The first executive director of the Social Justice Learning Institute, Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza, he set out to create an environment, or at least a program, that could help to make sure that young people, young men specifically, knew who they were, had a really strong sense of identity, also an understanding of the types of things that they've gone through in life and the commonalities that they have with their peers, but also being in touch with civic engagement, knowing how they can change the world around them by understanding how those systems have come into place. So there's a bit of history that's taught in the class. And they also learn how to do research, right? Like using research as a tool, education as a tool, to be able to usher in the change in your community. The Black Male Youth Academy that turned into the Urban Scholars is actually a program that is a credit-bearing class that students take in school. So this school year, we're in 22 different schools, including Antelope Valley Unified High School District. We're in Culver City Unified. We're in LAUSD and Local District South, West and Northeast. We're in Compton, and of course in Inglewood as well. This year, looking to serve around 600 to 700 students. throughout all the different spaces that we're in.
That's a lot.
But the whole point, again, is having them be in touch with themselves while they also get civically engaged and help to change the world around them. So,
I want to get to a more serious topic. A lot of time, homeless youth have a lot of burdens getting quality education. They have a lot of problems, a lot of barriers, especially youth, but homeless youth especially. What are some of the main problems you see quality education, specifically in South Central youth?
Yeah, well, the thing is, the way that the education system was created, it wasn't necessarily created for youth, specifically black youth, rather they're homeless or not, like, to be able to thrive, right? It's not, you're teaching and learning the different things in school, and it's really all of the social aspects and a lot of the other tertiary content that you kind of get just from your experience that help you learn how to navigate the world. And when you think about the history of education and the way that it exists today, it was really about creating employment and creating systems so that young people can actually grow to actually be a part of industry, right? So we're thinking about education in a different way now. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question about the barriers that we're seeing, the education system in its own is not necessarily the barrier. You start looking at the social determinants of health. So what does housing look like, and what neighborhoods are these young people actually coming from or are a part of? I mean, you understand that the ecological and contextual factors of a young person's life, like, they don't choose what family they were born into, or what neighborhood they were born into, or which systems may actually exist there, or not, like what the school system may look like, but it has everything to do with their life course outcomes. School readiness, the ability to have a full-time job or not, if you are going to be homeless or not, like all of these life course outcomes and the levels in which they can achieve have everything to do with their environments that also have a lot to do with their physical health and mental health, their ability to express the types of things that they're going through. So when these things are actually kind of tied together in a vicious cycle that could be negative, you need to have intentional randomness. And I say randomness because, like, for a class like we have, or programming that we have, most of those young folks don't know, or it's random to them that they're placed in our class. Or like programs that exist in other organizations like COCO or Brotherhood Crusade, or some of the other work that is done to make sure that you're intervening in the young folks' lives. There's intentionality there, but it's random. But what it does is it creates more situated choices for them to do something different than what the cycle that they might have been in kind of puts them in. So those challenges and barriers that might actually exist, they get mitigated when you have meaning-based intervention that could exist because of the types of programs that SJLI and others actually provide.
Got you. You have a lot of experience with dealing with youth, specifically in education. What would you think, it could be middle school or high school, what do you think specifically would your be ideal school? Like, what are some things that should be a part of their education?
Oh, man. Most families don't pass down healthy habits because they were never taught in the first place. So that's the first thing. Like, what does it mean to live a whole, free, thriving, healthy life? And I think when you think about it from that lens, what types of things can we be teaching in schools to make sure that people are actually moving in their world, or moving in the worlds that they exist in a way to actually try to achieve a whole, free, healthy, thriving life? Like, in equity, when you think about equity, we define equity at the Social Justice Learning Institute as the natural law or right to justice or proportional fairness. And so when you think about health equity, you're also thinking about the social determinants of health, the access to housing, health care, the access to education that is going to put you in the process to thrive. But I'm mentioning these social determinants because when you think about the concentric circles that these things are, with the young person in the middle, all these things have to be going right for them to actually live a thriving life. So if we're thinking about school, we should be touching on how to achieve the things that are necessary in all these different aspects of a life fulfilled. So, what does it mean to have credit if we're going to live in a world that is based on capitalism, and being able to make sure that I am making the right decisions from a financial standpoint? What is financial literacy? And then also, how can I achieve those types of things in my life? What does it look like? I said earlier about living a healthy life, being able to be taught how to make the right decisions when it comes to my health. What does it look like to have a healthy environment, and how can I help to build that? And getting the skill sets and the tools you need to have to build that business wise. And there's a whole bunch of different things that you can go about. Urban agriculture, even, like, can we create changes in our built environment to make it healthier? How do I determine green space? What does it look like to do a general plan in my community that actually is conducive to people living healthy lives? So I can go on and on about what types of things we could be thinking about and what type of things we could be teaching. But it's definitely not the type of education system that exists now. There's a lot of changes that we can do for the better.
All right, I'm going to get political for a second. Trump's just been a bulldozer with, education, really bulldozing a lot of it. What are some things certain nonprofits can do to help, like protect themselves from it, make it Trump-proof? And how has that affected certain nonprofits like yourself who deal with education?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I would say, like, Trump-proof, I would actually, take the person out of this scenario and start to think about, okay, well, how does your nonprofit actually exist in the environment itself, right? So, like, as an organization, one of the things that was determined by our board and also by the first executive, Dr. Dwayne Scorza, like, we never received federal funds, right? We operated in partnership of funding partners that exist in the region, as well as working with local government to be able to provide the resources, but also work to change policy in a way so that organizations like ours can have the ability to work on campuses and work with young people. But also knowing that schools, in the way that they are funded currently, by way of property taxes and the whole nine, depending on where those schools actually exist, and also the home ownership aspects that actually are in those communities, has a lot to do with the funding availability that might be for that school district or that school. So there are some organizations that might rely specifically on the funding that might be available from the school or school district, which may limit the possibilities in the realm of opportunities that you can operate and do your work in. So you forced into a situation where you got to diversify your resources to be able to do the work. And so I think all in all, there's a conversation to be had by organizations in partnership on how, one, we can maybe galvanize each other and play to our strengths. So there may be something that I do good and that another organization does good, and we can actually partner to bring resources to those schools to make sure that we're impacting those young people. It also is having a collective conversation with the funder community on how they can collectively pool resources in a way that could support organizations that are doing really good work, so that we can go and move forward and make impact in that way. But yeah, I mean, there's a larger conversation to determine, like, how you wanna make impact. But that's not to take away. I'm saying that to start with, take him out of the equation. But when you bring that back into the fray, we can't shy away from getting political. Like we may need to organize. We may need to come together to speak upon the things that are important to us as organizations, so that we can continue to do our work and make our case for why we're important in the ethos, right? So there are those that may want to shy away from stepping up and leaning in and speaking out. But I think in moments like this that we're in, when you have such a violent push for us to go backwards in time as far as the history of this country is concerned, it's going to be incumbent upon us to really lock arms together to hold the line, but then also come up with strategy on what the future can actually hold, even with all the changes that are being made.
We've seen policies proposed and implemented to support foster youth and transitional age youth education. SB 307 helps cover 100% of unmet college costs for foster care, including housing, education. AB 2137 removes barriers to tutoring and counseling services. AB 2508 ensures foster youth are enrolled and also helps them with savings, specifically for college, their college savings. Are these kind of policies needed to move the needle, and how do people support these policies?
I'll be honest, these are a start, but there's a lot more that needs and can be done, right? Especially when we're talking about when foster youth or those who are system involved age out of the system, and the abrupt ending of not only just the programs but even just the care that comes that comes into their lives, and a lot of the young folks that we work with are a lot of times not prepared for that transition, right? So these types of programs that are bills that you're outlining, in my mind, help to facilitate some of that, because you're building resources that they have access to, but also skill sets as you're taking advantage of those resources at the same time. So I think it's only the beginning. Like there's a lot of advocates and great work that's happening on the state level here in California. I think one of the ones that I definitely would lift up, Assemblymember Isaac Bryan. You know who he is?
Yeah, I met him.
Yeah, really good brother, man. And he's former foster care student, right? So I mean, young person. So he understands like the lived experience of what that looks like. Often talks about his brothers and sisters and what that experience was when he was growing up, and that type of impact. And you need those type of leaders who are helping to create policy, because that lived experience helps to make sure that the gaps that might exist with people who don't know anything about that life, when they create things, sometimes it's missing certain things, So yeah, and the other question about how people can access it or become a part of the programming or the work, I think more people need to be civically engaged and be asking questions about how we can create change in the built environment just by our activities. Sometimes just having space for people to just talk about some of the issues that they have dealt with, helps to create a thriving community. And you need that thriving community when you're trying to change systems, because one person going up to the state and saying what they need to say is one thing, but if you got a whole group of people who are going up there who are saying the same thing and saying it with their chest, it can be a game changer. You know what I'm saying? So there are organizations, again, I was mentioning earlier, like Community Coalition, or even at the Social Justice Learning Institute, we work with young people and helping them sharpen their minds around civic engagement, how they can be engaged and involved. But tapping in to some of these organizations that are already doing this work and being a part of the journey that they're involved in to help create change in their communities. Have you had the opportunity to ever go up and talk to an elected official and talk about policy or anything like that? Have you engaged in anything like that before?
Miss Kelly's always trying to invite me to go to when they go to like Capitol Hill and when they go to like the Senate. I haven't got the chance to. I've been kind of busy, but we actually met Isaac Bryan, a CDF partner with his Bigger Than Us event a while ago. So I actually met him, but I always had the chance to. At Sanctuary of Hope, for those who don't know, I've also partnered with Sanctuary of Hope. We've actually gone to Washington, D.C. and help advocate for reparations. But no, I'm trying to get more into like the whole engagement policy, as to your point.
Wow, when you went, how was that experience?
It was really nice. It was really eye-opening. We had to go inside the White House, got a presidential seal. It was really different advocating on the front lines. That was the first time I ever publicly advocated for something with Christian Green, but it was really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good brother too, man. Christian's doing his thing as well. There's a lot of in this, there's a continuum of change making that kind of takes place, like organizations and leaders who have been a part of that continuum, who have ushered in change in different ways, generation after generation. And I am really excited of being in the state of California, but also in this part of time as a part of the continuum doing the work too. So there's a lot of good folks doing good things.
Yeah. I also want to talk about, there's a lot of emotional impact for people who go through trauma from the foster care system. How do you seen some of that trauma show up in classroom or college campuses?
Man, classrooms, college campuses, or even organizing spaces. there can be triggers. You know, certain conversations can trigger people. Certain environments trigger people, and their responses vary in those moments. Sometimes it can be tears. Sometimes it can be very vitriolic like responses, depending on what it was that triggered them. Sometimes it could be hard conversations. Like sometimes just letting them vent and get it out their chest. It's tough sometimes in the school setting because the way that the school environment is actually set up is not built for those types of responses or the care that is needed in order to like make sure that those people can still feel safe enough to be able to emote the way that they need to, may not always be there. And so again, that's why you need to have organizations and community partnership who can hold space for those types of hard conversations that are necessary, or even to work with the leadership on those campuses and administrations on those campuses, to be able to make sure that they understand why it's important to create the appropriate type of environment that can feel safe for those types of students. You know, and I'm sure you've seen it. Like you. How old are you now? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm 24.
So you're 24. So like in your journey, not even from like in the high school environment, but even in a college setting, like for folks who get triggered, you see what it looked like.
I actually do see what it looked like, and this is not just podcast. You won't even realize they were homeless till after I graduated. It's like, wow, why did you embarrassed to even say it?
Yeah, right. And where is it safe to actually have that conversation? You know, or who can you actually have the conversation with? So you want to make sure you have like the appropriate systems on campus and also the appropriate leadership on campus to be able to help manifest a really safe environment in that way.
Got you. That goes into my next question. What do you think is the best way you can make them feel like they belong in the classroom?
Belonging is deep, man. And that's not a word that you usually hear, especially when it comes to Black folks. You know, and I keep coming back to the Black experience in this, mainly because you know the racialized caste system that we exist in, that is called America, you know, was really built off the system of white supremacy, and as that has been codified into the laws and the policy. I mean, even in housing and how housing came about of Black folks not being able to live in certain places and not belong, right? Because of the covenants or because of the types of environments that white populations have created. Belonging is something that I am grateful that we're finally having conversations about, because that tells you about the arc of change that we've been able to embark on over time, to where we can start to talk about what belonging looks like. So when we're talking about that for impacted youth, system impacted youth, whether that is from the justice system or foster care or in other ways, the belonging environment, the environments that we're trying to create for them to belong in, have to take into consideration the different makeups of who they are as a person, right? Yeah, they may be a foster youth, or they may have been formerly incarcerated, but that does not make up the totality of who they are as a person, right? So going back to the idea of what does it look like to create whole, free, thriving lives, and making sure people feel like they belong in there, we have to be talking about ways that we can create shared abundance. We have to rethink what solidarity looks like. We have to even think about public systems and public safety even, and re-examining what those things can actually look like, so that safety and belonging is at the center of that, But if I'm centering belonging, though, I want to make sure that we're also centering Black belonging, because I believe that if we can create environments where Black folks and Black youth belong, we're creating an environment where all folks can belong too, right? Because at the very beginnings of this, they weren't supposed to. So if we're creating and manifesting in a way that it can, we're creating liberated environments where everybody can actually, see the fullness of their lives.
Most definitely. How can schools and colleges do a better job preparing youth aging out of the foster care system? Things like housing, work, financial literacy or even mental awareness? Like, how can they help foster youth more? And what kind of long-term impact does earning a degree or certificate have on a young person who's been through the foster care system?
Yeah, they actually go hand in hand, right? I kind of feel like you have a foster care young person or a transitional age young person who has beat the odds, right? And then has gone on to get the degree. Like, I feel like the college or the university should be like participating in making sure that they get to the next level in a very successful way, right? And you know, when you ask the question about what types of things can they be doing, you know, universities, I already have a feeling about like universities like taking over ownership of land in communities where they exist. Like, you know, you think about USC, like, and all the land that they have, I think that's problematic. So like, I don't know if it's necessarily creating more housing that they own that's provided, but I think at least setting young people up with the tools that they need to be able to move into housing on a path towards their own ownership of spaces. What does it actually look like to make sure that the transportation needs, or being true to connecting them to jobs and opportunities out of getting their degree? You know, of course, I feel like the resilience that already exists with this population of young people is already there. But the struggle is real. It's already real enough for everyone else, let alone the odds being stacked against you. So I think there is more that from a teaching and educating standpoint that can be done. But I think there's another level from a resource provision standpoint that can be done. I think there is collaboration that can take place with the public systems to even be thoughtful of the young people who are transferring out of the system itself. I think right now, the way that is done and the drastic cut that comes, you know, the cutting of the cord, like, these young people are left out there. And if it's not for organizations like Sanctuary Hope or for organizations that are standing in the gap, you know, many of those young people will kind of be left to the wayside. So, you know, these colleges and universities got a lot of resources. You know what I mean? Millions and millions of dollars that are going in those directions by way of tuition and fees or even public dollars. And I think there's definitely more that can be done with those.
Got you. Can you touch more on the USC? That was actually pretty interesting. More about what you were talking about?
Yeah, so, I mean, if you go to the part of South LA where USC actually exists, and it's interesting. I saw a meme on Instagram the other day of like the kid who goes to USC and it's like, oh man, there's so many great things on campus, and he turns around and he's actually in the middle of the hood. And that's because like where USC actually exists and the properties that they actually have purchased up for their students is in the middle of historic parts of Los Angeles, historically where a lot of black folks have lived and have been displaced. A lot of these young people that we're talking about in this whole conversation, many of them are from those areas too, and they don't even get the opportunity to go to universities like that because of the cost, how prohibitive the cost is to even try to attend those universities. But they are displacing people in a very real way. Gentrification is ushered in because of the types of atmospheres that these colleges who are buying up all this property create. And so I think there should be a partnership established somehow to make sure that the communities that exist around these universities can actually maintain their place in space and not be displaced. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole different podcast, bro.
Gotcha.
To be honest, we start talking about housing and all that type of stuff. Have you seen what are the different colleges and universities you've kind of been in, at least the ones that are in LA? Like,
well, I've recently graduated from Cal State Dominguez, but I've actually passed by USC. My cousin actually graduated from there, but I've been past there but I noticed that same thing too that you're talking about.
Yeah, man. You know, there's more that can be done. I think, and also collaborations that we created. And I think there's institutions that are trying to do it. You start thinking about Southwest College. in the way that they integrate with like the different businesses and stuff that are in the community, the collaborations that they've created with students who are on those campuses, and how they can actually engage what's going on in the community at the same time. There's models that are out there. We just got to lean into them.
Well, just want to thank you for the time that you were able to share.
Hey, this has been a great conversation, man. And I, since we are doing it's a podcast, and you can find us at the Social Justice Learning Institute, www.sjli.org. You know what I mean? If you need to get in touch with us about any of the different type of programming that I kind of talked about today, we let it have you. If you want to follow us on social, because we got a lot of good things happening over there, you can follow us SJLI_CA on all platforms. On Facebook is my SJLI if you want to find us there too. But there's a lot of great work happening. My team is doing amazing things. I can't even take credit. It's just been an amazing journey, man. I'm excited to be a part of this conversation and share, a point of view with you all. So thank you.
Almost deaf. Your leadership at the Social Justice Institute is helping people reimagine what's possible for the youth that's left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Really reminding us that education is about more than tests and grades, it's about community.
Yeah, man. Yeah, spot on.
Before we close out, I want to leave you with a call to action.
Yeah.
These are real policies. Bills like SB 307, AB 2137. They really make a difference, and learning about these bills and sharing them are really important.
Yeah.
You can visit youthlaw.org to learn more about them. These organizations are doing more to push these bills forward. Also, I wanted to shout out Children Defense Fund. You can also follow us at Child Defender 1973. Thank you for listening, and appreciate you for your time.
Peace.
Peace, man.
Hello, listeners. This concludes the Bridging the LA podcast episodes. We want to give a huge thank you to the Children Defense Fund California, along with the Radical Imagination Fellowship. Shout out to our fellows for their support. Huge thanks to Community Coalition for allowing us the space to record and for being such a strong community partner.
Deep appreciation to the Conrad Hilton Foundation for providing funding for this project that's fostering meaningful conversations that matter. Can't forget the team of the Children Defense Fund who work hard every day to ensure young people grow up with dignity, hope, and joy.
I'm Karina Ortiz.
I'm Dwayne Gill.
And this has been Bridging LA. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.